The president specifically asked me, and his gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes, which would have resulted in the issue being turned over to the House of Representatives, and literally chaos would have ensued.
Trump's former vice president is getting a little spicier in how he discusses what occurred on January 6th when pro-Trump rioters stormed the Capitol. And of course, Trump demanded that Mike Pence avoid certifying the election unless he use a slate of phony electors to do it, essentially overturning the results of the 2020 election. Now, what you heard in that video was a response to one of the more recent lies coming from Donald Trump, where he alleged that no, I didn't try to overturn the results of the election. I didn't tell him to install the fake electors. No. I just wanted him to delay the certification. Well, here's former Vice President Mike Pence further elaborating on how that was a lie.
First time I heard speculation that as vice president, I'd have the authority to overturn the election by returning or rejecting votes. I frankly dismissed it out of hand. Look, the founders of this country had just won a war of independence against a king. And I was confident as a student of American history that those founders would have never vested the vice president or anyone else with unilateral authority to decide what electoral college votes to count and which not to count. I was clear on that throughout. I was clear with President Trump throughout, all the way up to the morning of January 6th. But let's be clear on this point. It wasn't just that they asked for a pause. The president specifically asked me, and his gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes.
By the way, the gaggle of crackpot lawyers are the unnamed and unindicted co-conspirators in the indictment. And by the way, what Vice President Pence said there was true per the indictment. So let's take a look at that. It stated that the defendant and co-conspirators attempted to enlist the vice president to use his ceremonial role at the January 6th certification proceeding to fraudulently alter the election results. When Pence told Trump he wouldn't go along with his scheme, according to the indictment, Trump complained that his vice president was, quote, too honest, end quote. And Pence, who is in fact running for president in the Republican primary, has decided to capitalize off of that moment and is now selling merchandise that states, too honest.
Okay, so first of all, you've got to change in Pence's strategy here. When he first came out to run for president, he was doing the same thing that almost everybody else in the race was doing, which is patty cakes. Oh, Donald Trump is wonderful and great. We happen to have a slight disagreement at the end where he wanted to do a coup and I didn't. Okay, he wouldn't use those words, right? But he would refer to it as something that was relatively small and was generally supportive of Trump, even though we know for a fact that when he was told that Trump was told that Pence might be murdered by his Trump supporters, Trump said that he didn't mind.
I have that reporting. In fact, let's go to graphic 8. This is from a report in May of 2022 from the New York Times. Meadows, according to an account provided to the House committee investigating January 6th, told his colleagues that Trump had said something to the effect of, maybe Pence should be hanged.
Yeah, and that comes from one of the witnesses that we showed you on an earlier show, where she said that Meadows came into the room and they said, you got to tell the president that they're threatening to murder his vice president. And Meadows said, yeah, I already did. And he says he doesn't mind and that Pence had it coming. So deserved it. That's the words that Meadows used according to the witness. So now, Pence was still being soft to him because he had some BS political strategy about how he's gonna get the MAGA guys to vote for him by being nice to Trump.
Come
but
on.
It's obvious now that the indictment has happened, that Pence has changed his strategy and is now being more honest about it. He wasn't dishonest, to be fair to Pence.
They wanted to hang you, bro. Like, what kind of strategy is that? Like, how stupid can you be?
Right, well that's politicians. They have this whole consulting class that has these insane strategies. They tell Democrats to be more like Republicans, and then people vote for Republicans because you told them to. And in this case, they told Pence, now remember, we're gonna get Trump's voters by telling them that Trump is great, except we disagree slightly. And of course that didn't work, but Pence being more honest about what happened. And by the way, if you're wondering, wait, how do you know he's being more honest now? Well, this matches the testimony that he gave earlier, right? And his actions from earlier. So now finally this is, and he didn't lie in the middle. He just didn't talk about it as much in the middle. But now he's finally saying, yeah, of course, they wanted me to do fake electors. And guys, the thing about the fake electors that's really important is they were not Trump's slate of electors. Both sides have slates of electors, and whoever wins sends their slate forward, or the state legislatures then send those electors forward. No, Trump in a lot of the instances came up with a whole new set of fake electors. They would ask different Republicans in the state, hey, do you want to be our fake electors? Sometimes they would lie to them and say, oh, no, it's okay. You're not really, this is just in case we win, right? And for some of them, no, they told them, right? So a lot of those guys have flipped on him now, etc. So there's no question they had a whole string of fake electors in 7 different states. No question about it. And so finally Pence has joined the reality-based world and is saying things that are indisputably true.
I'll give you another example. Reacting to the most recent indictment on Tuesday, Pence declared that, quote, anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States, adding that he chose the Constitution over Trump on January 6, 2021. And if you go to some pro-Trump forums online, Pence is kind of paying the price for being a lot more honest and candid about this January 6th situation, because those forums have some pretty terrifying comments threatening violence, all sorts of acts of violence against Pence. I was gonna read some of those comments, I'm not going to, but there are federal officials and law enforcement closely monitoring those forums. So these people who think it's cute to put out specific death threats targeting Mike Pence, you might have the feds knocking on your door one day, so.
Yeah, so look, we've quoted that poll before about how 41% of Republicans think that it might be time for violence. And so this is the thing that was called the Donald on Reddit a while back. It's switched a couple of times and now has their own website. But the things that Anna's not reading you are vicious descriptions of how they want to murder him. And tons of comments that are being upvoted. So it's not just rando comments, they're being upvoted to the top on how they're going to murder Pence, and by the way, all of their political opponents. And then they'll turn around and go, oh, look at the FBI infiltrating our groups. Dude, when you say you'd like to murder different political figures, if the FBI is not infiltrating your group, it is absolute malpractice and negligence. You're saying it publicly, and there's tons of you that are saying it publicly about how you like to murder people.
Okay, fine, I'll give you a few, because it's one thing to say they're really bad, it's another thing for you to actually know what they're saying. The top comment on the Pence post called for divine retribution against the traitor. That's not too bad, right? But it reads, may God strike him down for his lies and treachery to the American people. But as other commenters piled on, they fantasized about a public execution of Pence at a gallows. Quote, I want to watch his toes dangle in the breeze, end quote, wrote user.
Don't even bother reading his name.
I mean, how could we not though?
Okay.
It's allowed, the FCC won't fine us for it. It's, what is it, let's see, Big Mike's Hairy Dong.
Okay, so but look, guys, they sound like goofballs because they say these insane things, but all the people on there upvote them, and they talk about killing other people, and so you might think, hey, maybe some of them are joking around. Number one, you don't get to say you're going to kill people in gruesome ways and then go, ha, I was just kidding. Number two, this is really important. That same group before January 6th talked about bringing gallows and nooses and zip ties, and described all the different ways that they might break into the Capitol and actually get Pence. And then that's exactly what happened on January 6th. So when they make these threats, unfortunately in the past, they have not been idle threats. So, and if you're wondering why Pence was quiet, as we speculated about earlier in the beginning of his campaign, we thought maybe because he was trying to do a political strategy. But there's some argument to be made that he's worried that they're going to look to kill him again. And last time they were trying to murder him. So these are insane times. And the fact that the great majority of the Republican voters go, oh, our guy didn't mind if his own vice president was murdered so that he could do a coup against this country, but I'm good with it.
Yeah. That
is dark, man. And so people will say like, they're lunatics online. I mean, there's 1,000 different brands of lunatics online. But some of them, usually the fake left guys, are like, oh yeah, lesser two evils, man. I bet you vote for Biden anyway. What are you gonna do, vote for Trump? Like, no, we got a long way to go before Biden's the candidate, and I love primaries. I mean, and Marianne Williamson, we just had her on the show, she's primarying Joe Biden, she's up to 10 points, primary. But if you make it into a general election against Donald Trump, am I gonna vote for you, whoever you are? Of course I am, because I'm not gonna have a lunatic madman fascist who didn't mind his vice president being murdered back in office.
Right.
That's not a hard question. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.